Once upon a time, in the picturesque kingdom of Everlandia, there lived a kind and gentle young woman named Ella. She was the daughter of a loving couple who, unfortunately, met an untimely end, leaving her an orphan. Ella's days were filled with sorrow, yet she never allowed bitterness to take root in her heart. Shortly after her parents' passing, Ella's world changed drastically. Her father's dear friend, Sir Francis, took her in as his own. The promise of a loving home, however, quickly faded as Sir Francis remarried a woman with 2 daughters of her own, Anastasia and Drizella. Ella's stepmother, a woman whose heart was as cold as winter, cared little for the young girl who had suddenly become part of her household. As the years passed, Ella found herself relegated to the role of a servant in her own home. Yet, through it all, her spirit remained unbroken, and she became known in the village for her kindness and resilience. One day, news spread throughout Everlandia that a grand royal ball would be held at the palace. The occasion was the prince's search for a suitable bride, and invitations were sent far and wide. Excitement filled the air, and even Ella's stepsisters couldn't contain their enthusiasm. They pranced around the house, daydreaming about the prospect of marrying the prince and becoming royalty. Ella, however, had little interest in such matters. She was content with the simple joys of life, the warmth of the sun, the rustling of leaves, and the songs of the birds that seemed to follow her wherever she went. But fate had other plans for her, as the announcement of the royal ball brought a sudden flurry of activity to the household. Anastasia and Drizella were in a frenzy, demanding that Ella assist them in preparing for the grand event. They wanted the most extravagant gowns, the most intricate hairstyles, and every accessory that sparkled in the moonlight. Ella, ever obedient, found herself at the mercy of her stepsister's whims, stitching and sewing, combing and curling, as the grand day approached. As the sun dipped below the horizon on the night of the ball, the stepsisters twirled in front of the mirror, admiring their reflection. Their gowns were resplendent, their hair intricately styled, and their faces adorned with makeup that concealed any hint of imperfection. Yet, as they looked upon their reflection, a shadow passed over their eyes, a reflection of the emptiness that lay within. With the stepsisters ready, Ella's stepmother turned her gaze towards the young girl. "You, Ella, will stay here. A servant like you has no place at the royal ball," she declared, her voice dripping with disdain. Heartbroken but accustomed to such treatment, Ella nodded silently. She watched as her stepsisters paraded out of the house, leaving her alone in the dimly lit room. The weight of her loneliness settled upon her shoulders, but she refused to let it crush her spirit. In her solitude, Ella sought solace in the garden behind the house. The moonlight bathed the flowers in a soft glow, and the gentle rustling of leaves accompanied her every step. Unbeknownst to her, this quiet sanctuary was about to become the stage for a magical transformation. Suddenly, a soft, melodic voice filled the air, and a shimmering light materialized before her. A figure cloaked in an ethereal glow appeared. It was her fairy godmother. With a kind smile, the fairy godmother revealed her purpose: to bring joy to Ella's life on this enchanting night. A wave of the wand transformed the humble garden into a majestic carriage, pulled by 4 magnificent white horses. Ella's plain dress into a breathtaking gown, shimmering like the stars above. On her feet, delicate glass slippers adorned her, completing the transformation. "You shall go to the ball, my dear," the fairy godmother declared. "But heed my warning, the magic will last until midnight. When the clock strikes 12, the enchantment will fade, and all will return to its original state. Now, go and embrace the magic of this night." With gratitude filling her heart, Ella stepped into the carriage, and it whisked her away towards the royal palace. As she approached the grand entrance, the beauty of the palace took her breath away. The grandeur of the ballroom, adorned with crystal chandeliers and opulent decorations, left her in awe. The moment Ella entered the ballroom, a hush fell over the crowd. The prince himself, a dashing figure in regal attire, was captivated by her presence. Ella's grace and beauty seemed to illuminate the room, and whispers of admiration swept through the assembled guests. The prince approached Ella, extending his hand for the first dance. They glided across the ballroom floor as if floating on air, and for a moment, the world outside ceased to exist. Ella's worries melted away, replaced by the joy of the music and the warmth of the prince's gaze. Throughout the night, Ella danced with other guests, sharing laughter and creating memories that would last a lifetime. The prince was drawn to her kindness and humility, enchanted by the mysterious maiden who had appeared so suddenly. As the clock neared midnight, however, Ella remembered her fairy godmother's warning. With a regretful glance at the prince, Ella slipped away from the ballroom and hurried towards the garden. Midnight approached, and as the clock struck 12, the enchantment began to unravel. The magnificent carriage turned back into a pumpkin, the horses into mice. And Ella's gown into rags. She stood in the garden, wearing the tattered remnants of her former attire. As Ella made her way back to her mundane life, she couldn't shake the memories of the magical night. The prince, captivated by the mysterious maiden, was determined to find her. He had caught only a glimpse of her before she disappeared, but her image lingered in his mind like a haunting melody. The next day, the prince announced that he would search the kingdom for the owner of the glass slipper left behind at the ball. Messengers were dispatched to every corner of Everlandia, inviting eligible maidens to try on the slipper in the hope of finding the one who had captured the prince's heart. Ella's home became one of the stops on the search. Anastasia and Drizella, still enamored with the idea of becoming princesses, eagerly tried to fit their feet into the delicate slipper. But, to their dismay, the slipper was too small for both of them. Just as the messengers prepared to leave, Ella's stepmother, fueled by a malicious desire to prove Ella's unworthiness, suggested, "Let Ella try on the slipper. Even if it fits, she could never be the one the prince seeks." To everyone's surprise, the slipper slid onto Ella's foot perfectly, as if it had been crafted specifically for her. The prince, who had accompanied the messengers, recognized her instantly. A mixture of joy and relief washed over him, for he had found the mysterious maiden who had captured his heart. Ella was swept away to the palace, leaving her oppressive life behind. The prince, smitten,
she puts her hand in mine. We wanna chase the night.